You're listening to Six Towns Radio.
I'm joined this morning by Martin Smith, editor of the Oatcake. Morning, Martin. How are you?
Morning, Rob.
Yeah, obviously to talk about Stoke City season. About a week away now, isn't it? They got a friendly today on Saturday against Genoa. But yeah, massive changes since last season. Obviously, we've lost one manager, brought in another. That's the most significant change. How do you see that whole sort of transition?
That's what's interesting me most about the season, to be honest with you. I do think that we'd kind of reached the end of the road with TP last season. I felt the club was in real danger of stagnating and that we weren't really going to go anywhere. I think the stats bear that out. They were the worst. The last 2 years were the worst two of the five in the Premier League. You know, at a time where, to use his own words, we were supposed to be pushing on. We were actually, I think, really beginning to regress. So I felt that the change was needed. I think I'm like a lot of people in that Mark Hughes may not have been my sort of first choice. When you sit down and look at it, it was actually a very practical, very sensible choice. And it's how he now instills his philosophy and approach and how the team do under that new style that is intriguing me the most for the season. It's sort of kind of filling me with almost a bit of the kind of dread I get before the start of every season, but also
every game knowing
yeah, but also that kind of optimism and anticipation as well. You know, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, it's all changed, isn't it? And you know, you're expecting. Well, we've retained a lot of the same players. We expected a change of football. I popped down to one of the pre-season, the behind closed doors Burton game, and noticed just the different style of football they were playing.
But that's not, you know, that could be that we can't necessarily expect to hit the ground running with that. You know, that could be a while.
That's transition.
Yes, of course. And I think Mark Hughes in one of his most recent interviews said that, you know, you've got to be patient.
Yeah.
And that's true. You know, I mean, even TP's staunchest backers would have to accept that both of his spells at the club started rather shakily. Didn't win any of the first 12 games in his first spell, and in the second spell we were really looking quite poor until we did that massive spending spree where we bought in Diao, Fuller, Hendry and Delap in literally the space of a week or two, and that turned everything round, you know. So you know, we can't go judging him on the first game or so, especially when the first game's away at Liverpool.
Yeah, it's every manager says they've got a tough start, don't they? But
yeah,
you know, and realistically, he has got a tough start. Crystal Palace just been promoted.
Yeah,
you know, they'll be all guns blazing when they come down to the Brit.
Yeah, well, I hope we catch them on the same days when they just lost at Crawley 3-0. That's I hope we catch them in that kind of form.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things where people say, you know, before the season starts, you know, excited because you haven't lost a game yet. Well, look at it the other way, we haven't won a game either. So.
I'd say, you know, I'm sort of nervous, to be honest. It's that sort of, it is all change, and you know, it could go one of two ways. It could be one of three ways. Really, it could stay as we are. We could progress, which is where you want to be, but it could go all pear-shaped.
Yeah, but again, I did say that the trend line was definitely pointing downwards over the last 2 years. So I feel, had we not made the change, I still feel I hadn't seen anything to suggest that was radically going to alter. You know, the lack of goals being a particular concern for 2 straight seasons. I mean, the lowest scorers in the country over 2 years. And that didn't change. I think something you said earlier about it's many of the same players. I think some people's concerns are that perhaps we haven't been as active yet as they would have liked in the transfer market. However, to give TP one thing, he did sign some good players that perhaps we haven't seen the best of yet, and there's Palacios and maybe even Crouch yet, you know. So then, you know, you factor in, can somebody get better out of Kenwyn Jones, because there is actually a very good player in there, you know. People don't keep spending lots of money on him, which they have for no reason. So we also, I understand people's concerns. I still think we probably need to bring a striker in, and if reports are to be believed, we actually have a team out there at the moment in Germany trying to do that Diouf deal. So there's that, and then there's that American, that Aguadillo.
Well, apparently they signed pre-contract.
Yeah, but then he wouldn't come until January, would he? So that's one of those things. Do his club let him go in January for nothing, or do they cash in on him now? I don't know.
We'll swap him for Jack.
Yeah, no, don't. Yeah, if he's going out there, yeah. So we'll have to see on that. But I think I like some of the signs and sounds I've been hearing from the club. You know, the players, no player's ever going to say I hate this new manager. It would have to be, a short suicide note, wouldn't it?
Certainly.
So, they could say nothing, and some players have said that they're enjoying the kind of new approach and that we were working with the ball. And then I stayed up for the American games, where I could get the streams, and we're clearly trying to do something different. There's no question about it. You've always got to have the rosette option or the 90-yard down the field punch when you need to. But other than that, they did look as though there was a different style and a different method, and I found that encouraging. So, we'll see. And I do think that Stoke will make those signings that we still need, and I do believe we need. And maybe one or two players are going to go out.
I think he's not afraid to play that style of football either. I mean, amongst many of his spats, I was looking at some of his spats he'd had last week, and he fell out of Fabregas at Arsenal at one point, and I think the argument was, Fabregas is now the team. Do you want to play for Barcelona when he was managing Blackburn? And obviously he wasn't playing a Barcelona style football against Arsenal then. But again, he's horses for course. He's of that TP mould where maybe he will part the buzz if he needs to.
Well, yeah, that always has to be an option, but I hope that it's not. There's parking the buzz in circumstances. There were one or two times for me. I'm not here to damn TP, but there's a couple of times where I really turned up at a game and you almost like your shoulders dropped when you saw what we were trying to do from the word go. And one of my famous incidents, and I go on about it a lot and make no apologies for it, was at Liverpool a couple of years ago when 94 minutes into the game we win a throw in front of the Stoke fans. Rory's just come on the pitch, he's fresh. The ref's looking at his watch, he's checked with his linesman, and we're thinking, 0-0, we could win here at Liverpool, we're going to hurl it into the box. The strikers were up there, the defenders were coming forward, Huth and Shawcross, and everyone was beginning to stand on the seats. And you saw the instructions come from TP. We threw it down to the corner flag, the ref blew his whistle, and I thought that's beyond negative. When you're not even going to try and win a game in the 94th minute with the very thing that Stoke City are hallmarked for, renowned for, this long throw, and Rory Delap's literally come on 5 minutes earlier. And so, there's parking the bus, and there's parking the bus and concreting up a wall in front of it very quickly, So, no manager should live and die on dogma. If Mark Hughes turns up one day and he just sees the other team are playing really well, and that we're just going to have to hang on for dear life, then that's what we have to do. Yeah. But you adjust according to the circumstances, and every manager should have every option available to him.
Certainly. So I moved on from TP, and there's a lot of words and a lot of praise being said about him. I'm sure he'll get, if he ever should visit the Stoke ground again, he'll get a fantastic reception.
Oh, guaranteed, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Whatever kind of reservations and concerns you had at the end, nothing detracts from the record he's had at Stoke, and he was extremely well supported by the Coates family, and he was given a lot of money to spend, but I can show you other managers who also were, and who blew that money. And TP's achievements stand there, we're going to start our 6th year in the Premier League now. We got a little bit uncomfortable at the end of last year, but we were by and large not really in too much relegation trouble ever. We did get to a cup final, the first in the club's history, and you can talk about lucky runs and stuff, which they've had easy runs in the past and blown them. We did play in Europe, which a couple of those games I'm going to count as some of my most treasured ever memories, away at Split, away in Istanbul against Besiktas, just incredible memories. So yeah, the guy, TP, is absolutely guaranteed, I think, a standing ovation on any occasion he returns to the ground, and rightfully so.
So moving on, Mark Hughes. What are your thoughts on Mark?
Like I said before, it's I think when you actually stop and look at it and put a sensible hat on, it's a good appointment for Stoke. Take away that 1 year of madness, that several months of madness at the start of last season at QPR, which was just a maelstrom of chaos anyway. They were just bringing in players literally by the day. And you wonder, was he the one who was bringing them all in either? I don't know.
I think Peter Coates and Tony Scholes sort of addressed that really early in the press conference when they announced it.
You take away that, he actually has a very, very solid managerial record, with all the clubs he's been at, and he did well at Fulham, and he was a kind of personality as a player, and he appears to be that as a manager as well.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to rub people up the wrong way, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. He doesn't much care what opponents or opposing people think of him. So that's good. You have to be that. You've got to be single-minded. A little bit uncaring of reaction.
Yeah, I think that Coates sees that, and I heard Peter Coates saying that privately in the press. He gets about and he puts himself about.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite interesting. He did that thing at Stoke, didn't he? When the famous, infamous Andy Wilkinson tackle against Fulham in the cup match. And people sort of try and hold that against him. Well, he was doing that now. He was sticking up for his own player, and that's what he'll do with a Stoke player in similar circumstances.
Yeah.
So, but the proof of the pudding, as always, is in the eating. And I'm certainly prepared to wait 2 or 3 months. We just need to. I think we need to address the issue of goals. I think the football is being addressed now, and that will come. And I think it's a good thing as well. Again, Stoke fans are a little bit concerned. They may be expecting more signings, but I don't believe that the board, the Coates family, I don't believe they brought in a manager who is obviously stepping into some pretty big shoes, and they weren't going to back him. I think that Stoke, though, given the spending where, for a while over the last 2 years we were the 4th highest net spenders in the Premier League, that's unsustainable.
Well, it can't happen now anyway, because Premier League rules dictate that now as well.
Yeah, but that was unsustainable anyway, and you only have to look at teams who've tried that, who are in so much trouble now, Coventry, Portsmouth, people like that, and you don't think that can't happen to you. Well, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whichever example you want to use, they wouldn't have thought that could happen to them either.
Certainly.
And it can happen. So, but I don't think they'd have got a new man in and not been prepared to back him. And all I think that's happening at the moment is we're just making sure that we get the right players at the right price. And I'm pretty confident. They're not going to appoint a new manager and then hang him out to dry. It would make no sense at all. And it's not going to happen. I'm really confident about that.
Again, at the press conference, Coates said the right player at the right age on the right deal. All three equally important.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a thing on that as well, that whilst... I mean, Stoke have been fantastic on this. Again, the board. Who would have believed it? That we haven't been a selling club. We have not sold players.
That's one of the things
we do turn deals down. We could have cashed in on Shawcross. Probably could have cashed in on Huth. We certainly could have cashed in on Begovic.
Yeah.
And they're all still at the club. We're not doing that. At the end of the day, every player has his price. But the days where Stoke kind of agree to the first offer that rolls in off the fax machine, back in sort of the 90s. Those days are gone, and it's a delight, to fans to know that. And we're all sensible enough to know that the right offer prizes any player from the club, but we're not a selling club. But there does have to be a resale value to players, and I think the kinds of when we start maybe buying in Woodgates and Upsons and Crouches and some of those players and buying them in on big wages and sometimes big transfer fees, that's quite tricky. There's no resale value there, so it's almost like you've got no assets in a way. There's nothing to sell off if you need to.
Well, again, that sort of there's got to be that mix of experience as well, hasn't there, with a youngish side.
Of course. So, I think if a general sort of focus for you is to, like you said, the right player at the right age on the right deal, that is going to put the club on a more sustainable long-term footing, and that's what we're trying to do. But of course, none of that matters if you get relegated. So,
no, certainly.
I think all those factors, and they must have thought about it. The people running Stoke, the people running Bet365 now, I think probably the most successful bookmakers in the world now, probably.
Yeah.
And I think they know what they're doing.
You got a business brain as well as a football brain, and going back to that press conference, it was really good to have some sort of be around Peter Coates and just listen to some of the stuff he's telling people. He's, they're like us in many respects. The first thing our default conversation is Stoke City. Their default conversation around the office is Stoke City.
Yeah, it must be.
But they can actually. Where we play fantasy football, they play fantasy football with real money.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of.
That's why we play Football Manager. On PC, and you get it wrong, you just crash the game and start again. They can't. No, of course not. No, I'm absolutely sure that nobody who plays it ever does that. But they can't do that. They get it wrong, and they pay the price. We suffer, and they pay the price.
It's a Vexed City, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you could probably speak better than I know. You've got a lot of kind of interests in many areas and the city, and you follow a lot of it. But I think somebody said it one time that the club being in the Premier League has had such a positive knock-on effect for Stoke-on-Trent.
Definitely.
And would probably felt that a bit last year with Vale getting promoted as well. So sporting success in the city definitely pays its own dividends. And
so in terms of signings, we've signed from a couple of players from clubs we wouldn't normally deal with.
Well, you really bring in. It's a shame we didn't get that Oliveira, because otherwise our first three signings would have been from PSV Eindhoven, Barcelona, and Benfica.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're looking, and that's a positive thing. So. Peters appears to be a good signing. I think everyone who's seen this Muniesa play knows that he can play.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing the right things. And
again, Hughes has got a good track record in terms of bringing unknowns in and through. Really.
That's right.
Not always down to with the manager. I mean,
that's correct.
We spoke to the agents and things like that in the past, and the setup they've got with Mark Cartwright now, and his contacts is fantastic. So they'll be identifying things, but they still put them through. Coates again said Mark Hughes has got the final call on any player.
Yeah.
But but evidence with Fulham, with Blackburn, even with Man City to a certain extent, he's brought players through.
Yeah.
That have been real.
And he has he is a player who played at the highest levels. He did play for Manchester United. He did play for Barcelona. And he has those kind of contacts.
Bayern Munich as well, is it?
Oh, right, crikey, right. Yeah, probably I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you now.
It might be me.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
I might edit that out if it's wrong.
Yeah, but quite possibly. But he has those kind of contacts. He has that. There's a kudos attached to his name. He was a great player, and I think that also some players may see that he will play in a certain style that may suit them, may bring out the best in them, and may be able to see the examples of other players he's brought through himself. So maybe some of the lesser names will see this as a manager who can bring out the best in me and move me onto another level that maybe even be beyond Stoke. So
yeah. I mean, people have talked about going back to comparing TP with Hughes and philosophy. TP's always been an underdog. He's always been scrapping against the big boys. He's never sort of managed at that sort of level.
I mean, it's a sensible approach to have to, not to get too carried away. We have to know our place. But one of the things that was wearing on me again with TP was that thing where he kept on about he had to manage expectations. No, you just have to manage.
Yeah.
No, the expectations will take care of themselves. It's not your job to manage expectations at all, because that's again, it's unduly kind of a negative, and it's very hard to keep playing the underdog when you're 6 years into the Premier League and you're the fourth highest spenders in the country. That it's hard to play that card. People weren't wearing it at the end, and a lot of journalists were pointing out our spending record, and comparative to some of the clubs we were trying to play underdog to. So,
but I think what my question was really in terms of Hughes has never had that philosophy. Always been big clubs looking down.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than TP's always been, scrapping to sort of.
Yeah. But having said that, when he was the manager at Blackburn, when he was the manager at Fulham, I don't think there was any doubt that he had a sense of perspective on where he was.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and what he was trying to do. But maybe he didn't play that underdog card as much. But he has more of a winner's philosophy and a bigger club philosophy and mindset. But that has to be earned, doesn't it, on the pitch? And Mark Hughes has to go out there with that Stoke team and do that again. You can think like a winner, but in a big club, you've got to play like one as well and achieve like one, and that's what we're all hoping for.
Okay, so talking about hoping for, what's your view on the season? I haven't even kicked a ball yet, really.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say what some people are saying. As long as you don't go down, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
I really hope that for the first time in this sort of great adventure we've been on, that we can make a genuine push for the top half. I don't think it's beyond us. I mean, all the wrappings are going to come off the presents next week, isn't it? And we're going to see how good everyone is and what the potential of everyone is. But now, it's still a blank table with big zeros everywhere, games played, points earned, positions, everything. I really hope that we can make a genuine push for the top half. I don't feel it's beyond us as a club.
So aiming for top 10.
Yeah, aiming for top 10. But that sensible thing that depending on circumstances, that 15th to 10th, is our kind of
that's where you'd
possible.
expect us
That's probably where we should be, given the size of our club. And we've done a lot of those kind of 14th, 15th, 16th, now maybe let's try and look at the top end of that bracket now towards 9 and 10. It's not beyond us. 7 probably is.
Okay.
You need one of the big clubs not to achieve one season to get into the top 7. And, but 9 downwards, is not beyond us.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Martin. It's been a pleasure talking to you again. We'll no doubt keep up with you during the season, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
Cheers.